In this movie, we wanted to ground yourselves like we are in Paris. We are definitely in Paris.
You know, for me, it's the history,
The worn away surfaces,
the sunlight,
the cobblestones,
the architecture,
the moss, the lichen.
A sense of romance, a sense of dream, a sense of warmth. Paris is kind of area that it's easy to fall in love.
That was the challenge for this movie, is to make it feel like, okay, there's no question about it, you are in Paris.
One of the things that immediately excited me about the project was the fact that it was set in Paris, and the idea of getting to design an animated feature set there. It just opened up all kinds of possibilities.
Whether or not you're, sort of directing, producing, production designing story, when you go over there, it's about sort of visually absorbing the world and wanting to visually remember the world. When we first decided to research Paris, for all of us, it was kind of a new experience, even for those of us that had been to Paris maybe once or twice. You never go with this sort of analysis.
When you go to Paris, you go to Paris with a particular filter on. You don't necessarily go and look at manhole covers and sewer grates, the little bits and pieces of corners and curbs and edging.
Harley in particular, beyond the ground, shooting these really interesting points of view.
What a trash can looks like at street level, what the cobblestones look, the detail.
When you see Remy crawling out of the grate, there is the texture and detail that we saw in Paris.
Harley and I took a trip to Paris in the fall, because that's when the movie is set, and we spent a week running around with cameras, acting like crazed tourists, going everywhere we possibly could in a short amount of time, taking pictures of everything we could think of.
Each day was a different weather pattern in Paris, so we got huge, glorious thunder clouds over the city, and then one day was rainy and dark, and the next day was sunny and shiny. So we're using elements from some of those pictures for the actual clouds, and I love the idea that what we're doing is that authentic. They could be Emeryville clouds probably, but I actually think that the way the sky looks is different in Paris than it is in California.
In Paris, nothing feels new, and we don't want things in this film to feel new. They've been lovingly used and maintained and cared for over the years, but they're old.
Stoops that have been worn out because even though it's granite, people have been walking there for centuries.
Paris is the old world, isn't it? And you think of things that have come from long ago.
You can still see the limestone what they built the houses of, or the plaster that they plastered over the stone walls. Just imagine how often that's been touched by rain or people's hands.
We've tried to give it a handmade feel, a sculptural feel that is caricaturing the Parisian buildings that sort of lend themselves. They are like sculpture.
The limestone buildings are just everywhere with the tin roofs and the granite streets, and it's like, it creates this uniform appearance so that when something punctuates that, you really notice.
We didn't show the skyscrapers there, that we showed the domes and the towers and the cathedrals. The heart of Paris is all there. It hasn't changed in 200 years.
I didn't get to do much research on this because of the time pressures on the film, but I did get one trip to Paris. At first I thought that I was just kind of, cashing in on the film, but once I got there, I realized that it actually was important for me to see the place, because I'd never been there before, and it is a one-of-a-kind place.
When Brad came on the film and added a lot of the back alley and side street kind of settings, it really kind of opened up the movie.
When I got there, I started walking around, seeing places that I wished our movie was. We were walking along the Seine, and it was me and Mark Andrews and my wife and Brad Lewis, and it was late, and there was a little bit of moisture in the air, and it was so atmospheric. It was beautiful, a little bit spooky. It had a quality, not a very specific quality, and I thought, we got to have a scene here. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be a scene. Then when I got back, I came up with the scene where Linguini takes Remy down in a jar to toss the jar in the Seine and end it all for Remy.
So when Brad goes, remember that area on the Seine that was Notre Dame, that bridge? I'm all, yeah, he's like, do the scene there. So by going, we have this physical and visual context. And so when I did the boards, I did my tonal pass on it, which is just blacks and whites and grays, and basically lit it tonally, not with the colors. That's all Sharon's job.
What I was trying to do was take advantage of what Mark Andrews had done in the boards. The mood is just really somber, very intimate between Linguini and Remy, but we wanted to just kind of barely make some stuff out in the distance. So we have Notre Dame Cathedral back there. You can just barely see the rose window, and we wanted the kind of drifting fog on the river going by, so you get a little bit of motion in there, so it's not completely static.
I got very excited about that scene because I thought it's the Seine. So I just, it was easy to put myself in that place and imagine that scene.